Ah yes, the Union Pacific, home to the great big rolling rail themselves. You might know them for the big boy, their yellow paint scheme, their SD70Ms, or their planned merger with Norfolk Southern. But one thing is certain, they've rostered a ton of locomotives over their nearly 164-year-long history. From the SD70Ms to the big boy, the 844, the Challenger, their E9s to the DDA40Xs, and many, many more. But we're here to talk about one locomotive you might not have heard of at all. A failed rebuild of a well-known and well-loved locomotive. And that locomotive is none other than the EMD SD59MX. Our story starts in the early 1980s. After the absolute disaster that was the EMD SD50, EMD has to come up with a better locomotive to beat the standard cab -8s, which were becoming more and more popular, and would be the start of EMD's downfall. Anyways, EMD improved the SD50 with the SD60. The SD60, which was introduced in 1984, looked exactly like an SD50 from the exterior, but on the interior, it had a brand new EMD 16-stroke 710 V3A engine, which would become used on every single EMD locomotive up to the SD70 ACE. The SD50, on the other hand, had a 16-stroke EMD 645 engine, the same engine used on the SD40-2. But the difference was that the EMD engineers basically just raised the RPM and horsepower density beyond the engine's normal limits of 900 RPM to 950 RPM. So the 645 was basically at the edge of its capabilities every time it operated, which caused frequent crankshaft failures, jammed pistons, cooling, and electrical issues. Many rails later downgraded the SD50 to 900 RPM to make them more reliable, creating the SD50-2. The standard cab SD60s lasted from 1984 until 1991, selling 537 copies. In 1989, EMD introduced a wide cab variant of the SD60 to compete with the C40E-8Ws. It was called the SD60M, M for modified. The SD60M is just an SD60, but with a wide cab nicknamed the Triclops cab by Fulmers. This cab would be used from 1989 until 1990. BN and the one we'll be focusing on today, Union Pacific, bought these SD60Ms initially. In 1990, following complaints from the crew about the cabs apparently rattling and just being a pain in general for crews and maintenance workers, EMD included a second variant of the SD60M, with the difference here being a new Phase 2 wide cab. A wide cab all you farmers out there are familiar with, as this wide cab has been introduced on every single EMD model up until the SD70 Ace. But anyways, UP bought 281 SD60Ms total, 184 Triclops, ups, and 97 Phase 2 SD60Ms, bringing the total to 281 EMD SD60Ms bought by the Union Pacific. These SD60Ms were initially built as and rostered as 6085 through 6365, and starting in the mid-2000s, they were renumbered 23-240 through 2520, with one outlier being UP2169. Aside from a few wrecks, the SD60Ms led fairly normal service lives on the UP, leading high-priority intermodals, manifest QFC trains, if those even existed, and other road trains until the really late 2000s, where they would get downgraded to local and yard service. And in the early 2010s, the story of the SD59MX itself actually begins. Starting in 2010 with the rebuild of UP2497, formerly UP6345 into SD59MX 9900 in 2010, 27 more SD59MXs would be rebuilt over a 5-year span, from 2010 to 2014, with the last one being delivered in early 2015. All SD59MXs are rebuilt Phase 2 cab SD60Ms. There are no rebuilt Triclops SD59MXs. They are classified as SD32 ECOs, SD59M-2s, and by UP SD59MXs. For the first few years of their lives, they could be seen throughout the UP system, and 9902 even made it all the way to the IHB near Chicago in April 2011. Until sometime between 2015 to 2018, when the EPA Tier 4 standards fully took effect for all locomotives in 2015, and when the SD59MXs stopped being able to meet their Tier 4 emission standards in 2018, they were all assigned to NorCal. Previously, SD59MXs were equipped with catalysts to try and meet Tier 4 standards until 2018. Sadly, the SD59MXs had trouble meeting those standards, and for that reason, and in 2018, they were all assigned to NorCal locals. As of June 2026, most SD59MXs are in storage, including UP9900 itself, with a handful still running locals in the NorCal area as of June 2026. The SD59MXs are powered by a Tier 2 compliant EMD 16-stroke 710 G38 Tier 2 turbocharged V12 engine with a brand new control system. They look almost exactly like the SD60Ms they were built from. The only main physical difference being from the outside, and being the SD70M style flared radiators. They can put out 3,150 horsepower or 2,380 kilowatts, and as of June 2026, rarely if ever run outside of NorCal. They have electronic fuel injectors, automated control and computer displays, and the ability to be remote controlled, though I've heard they don't really use the remote control systems a lot. As of now, they are the only SD60M rebuilds I know of. The Norfolk Southern SD60E rebuilds do not count because those were rebuilt from standard cab SD60s, not the wide cab SD60Ms. They are painted in two schemes, the flagless scheme and the flag scheme. As of now, none have been repainted into the new scheme, thank God. They are equipped with a Nathan K3 LA, though SD59MX 9904 is a K5 LLA. They are maintained every 184 days, about 6 months, instead of the standard 92 days, about 3 months. They also have an automatic engine start/stop system that keeps the locomotive ready to run without wasting fuel. They have upgradable software that can be tuned for reduced emissions or improved fuel efficiency. And can save up to 50% on lube oil and up to 25% on fuel costs. They were initially rebuilt from 2009 to 2011, and in mid-2012, they started rebuilding them. The SD59MXs are mostly recycled from their SD60Ms, with the control system and the cab, however, being all new. BNSF Earth also, interestingly, sent 3 SD45-2s to be rebuilt as SD59MXs, and the BNSF SD59MXs still retain their SD45-2 appearance. The BNSF SD59MX are lost as BNSF 1350 to 1352.